We're live. Can you tell everyone your name, please?
My name is Dr. Irene Mavrakakis, and I'm crying.
Because, why are you crying?
Because I was vaccine injured in 2012. But, Polly, you should know that there's this doctor who had a Twitter handle called Anaphylaxis Fact, who found you years ago when I was afraid to speak out, when I was really sick. I was very sick for 8 years from my vaccine injury. And I used to watch you on Twitter and things like that. And I said, someday I'm going to go meet Polly and I'm going to tell her my story, but I'm also going to be Dr. Mavrakakis and research everything and be able to also tell you some things that I found while trying to heal and spending all my time researching because I didn't have anything else to do. I did work and I did raise kids, but I was really sick after my vaccine injury.
So which vaccine hurt you?
It was one of the flu vaccines. So I'm a physician at a hospital, and they were already starting to mandate flu vaccines in 2012, or highly recommend them, and you had to fill out a form. And I was a little bit aware of some vaccine stuff. Always make sure my kids didn't get the one with the preservative. Had heard some stories from some military members about the anthrax vaccine and things like that. And, you know, I knew that the hospitals had quality measurement payments tied to flu vaccination status, and that was the driving force to wanting these flu vaccines, which also ties into COVID mania. So they were going to the different offices and offering the flu vaccine, and the nurse didn't ask me my allergies. And the thing is that I'm allergic to latex, and that allergy came from the low quality gloves during the AIDS epidemic. I trained at St. Vincent's Hospital in Manhattan during the height of the AIDS epidemic, so it's full circle for me because I know about the hepatitis B vaccine that was contaminated by Simian 40 and all of that. Anyway, after the vaccine, somehow allergies came up, and I jokingly said, well, not as if vaccines have latex in them, and she's like, well, this one does. And so
why would it have latex in the
there
vaccine?
is a file, CDC PDF file, which vaccines have latex in them. It's in the stopper. So it's equivalent to sticking a needle through a peanut and injecting it to a peanut allergic kid, you see. So knowing, as a board certified anesthesiologist and an interventional pain specialist, and knowing the biochemistry of it all, I know that that was probably a really terrible idea, and it turned out to be a horrible idea because that night I was choking. I didn't even recognize anaphylaxis because I hadn't had it in so long. The last time I had anaphylaxis was 4 years old. And I literally became airborne anaphylactic to latex like the peanut allergy kid.
Oh, wow. So
So what happened is, because latex cross-reacts with a lot of foods, I didn't realize that I was having a lot of recurrent anaphylaxis to foods. So by the time I wound up in a pediatric latex allergy specialist in Hopkins, I was on 120 milligrams of prednisone, Benadryl, 50 milligrams Q4, Zyrtec, Singular, you know, insurance saying you can't have any more EpiPens, frequent flyer in the ER at my hospital. Like, I was a disaster. Sometimes I'd go home for lunch and not come back because I wound up in the ER, you know, all of this kind of stuff. And the allergists at Hopkins and the local allergists, you know, did IgE or allergy testing to see if I was cross-reacting to foods, because latex people cross-react with kiwi, walnut, avocado, banana, and then as you become more allergic, you start to cross-react with these foods. It has to do with the genetic structure. This is really important because I want to kind of get a peanut dig into this. We'll explain the origins of anaphylactic food allergies are related to the fact that there are legume oil and milk protein vaccine adjuvants and excipients. I found a book by Hagen and Edelman that lists the current vaccine adjuvants and excipients, and there's legume oil currently used in the United States. And of course, that's the reason why we have the peanut allergy crisis, as vaccines have quadrupled since 1986 when they removed product liability for vaccines. So it's full circle for me. So I went down a deep dive onto what's in adjuvants and excipients, mechanism of immunology, and spent 10 years researching it all while trying to get better. And so the pediatric allergist said that, you know, pretty much you cannot be on 120 milligrams of prednisone for 3 months. You're going to die soon. This is ridiculous. And he put me on this medicine. And this medicine is very important because it will help COVID and flu vaccinated patients who have a histamine component of their cytokine storm. This is very important, and I'll tell you the 2 articles that lead to the research that I'm doing or trying to do at my hospital. Gastrochrome is a medicine. Gastrochrome is used for mast cell disease. It's a mast cell stabilizer. 60% of your mast cells live in your stomach. It's a liquid medicine. It prevents your mast cells from releasing histamine. Histamine is a component of the cytokine storm. We currently use histamine blockers. It's the after side of it. So this medicine stopped the recurrent anaphylaxis. I stayed on that for a couple of years. And then when my IgE testing came back, they did blood because it was too risky to do skin testing. I was IgE positive to all food except for 20. And he literally gave me this list of 20 foods. It was like meat, eggs, different types of meat, no fruit, and peas. So by blood testing, I was IgE positive to these foods. And he said, you are only allowed to eat these 20 foods so I can get you off the medicines and you're going to go on gastrochrome. And so we did, and I stayed on gastrochrome, and then I started to reintroduce foods, and then I made sure my food sources were very important, related to organic, non-GMO, healing my leaky gut, terrain-based medicine, path to health and wellness, holistic. I'm an MD, but I hang out with naturopaths, chiropractors, and the like. I'm very open to all the alternative types of medicine. And so fast forward to today, I take no medicines, and I have 95% of my foods back. I got peanut back a couple of years ago. It's a very long pathway, and my specific injury is specific to my allergy tendency. And so people should be hopeful. Of course, my vaccine wasn't messenger RNA. And so as a physician, when this all started, I told people in April of 2020 that there was going to be a vaccine that they were going to force upon us, because I had already seen the patent for the vaccine and the virus. I saw the 2019 donation from the National Institute of Health, or not donation, to Grefex, a vaccine company, to work on an mRNA coronavirus vaccine. And I knew. And so it was a very difficult time. I spoke out a little bit, found a community of doctors in Delaware. We formed the Delaware Initiative for Science and Ethics. We did present to the Department of Public Health and tried to tell them. We, connected with other doctors. Ivermectin is safe and effective. Respiratory virus vaccination doesn't make sense. And so the things that I think on the medical side of things that people need to know are the 2 studies and the theory behind it. It makes absolute no sense to vaccinate for respiratory viruses because they mutate. There's no evidence that flu vaccination decreases morbidity and mortality. There's a study from 2019 by the National Institute of Health and the Department of Defense that shows on table 5 that flu vaccination increases coronavirus susceptibility by 36%. So what does that mean? It means a lot, because in the beginning of COVID mania tyranny, the people who tested positive for COVID were military nursing home people and healthcare workers who are heavily flu vaccinated. The 2 states that did the worst are New York and California, also heavily flu vaccinated because they passed those draconian anti-medical freedom laws that removed medical and religious exemptions. And they were also the 2 states that made ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and zinc unavailable. So that was the perfect storm. We all know that PCR testing is invalid as it relates to the diagnosis of clinical disease. And we all know that they should have promoted vitamin D, quercetin, vitamin C in health and wellness. We never vaccinate during a respiratory virus pandemic for an experimental messenger RNA biologic that literally makes us spike protein making machines. It doesn't even make sense, any of it. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is science and knowledge. And the second component of this is there's an article from the British Journal of Medicine. It's called Flu Vaccine Causes Dengue-like Illness. And they found that in the flu vaccinated patients, they are inadvertently making IgE to the flu viral antigen. Just like in bee stings, some people become allergic. because you're not supposed to have respiratory viral antigens injected into you. That genetic structure is a respiratory pathway, so the science doesn't make sense. And unfortunately, our bodies inadvertently make IgE. And likely, in the beginning, the heavily flu vaccinated, right, had IgE to the COVID antigen. Okay, so a component of the cytokine storm is histamine related. So Dr. Chetty in South Africa has found that there's a histamine component of the cytokine storm in the vaccinated, right? And so I have a clinical research at my local hospital to give, which it hasn't had IRB approval, gastrochrome and histamine blockers to vaccinated people in the cytokine storm that have a histamine component. I'm working on it. So what's the answer for me as a libertarian? You know, we need to repeal HR 5546, the law that removed product liability, and the PrEP Act. Why? Well, because that's quintessential government interference. It removed competitive forces in the biologic and vaccine market. That set the stage for COVID mania tyranny, as you know, based on Aaron Siri's testimony at the Arizona State Senate. In America, we have competitive forces that drive safety and efficacy. So the issue with what happened is related to the fact that COVID mania tyranny is a quintessential example of the issues with our constitutional republic at large, failed central planning, having a few experts making determinations, and lack of freedom in healthcare and medicine. So that's my space. My space is for people to understand that, for people to know that we need to be for the people, by the people, that we're conscious sovereign beings and we have the right to say what we want to put in our body, and that this was a warning sign of the bigger problems in our constitutional republic. So that's why I came here.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for that. I need to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, do you think shedding is real?
From the vax?
COVID shots.
Well, they're not vax, right? The biologics. I read the documents that in the studies that said that women and men recently vaccinated need to be careful of being close to each other if the woman is pregnant. And they didn't use the term shedding, but they did say that there was a time period after vaccination that there was an issue. But they didn't use the word shedding. So it's not my area of expertise.
I just wondered what you thought about that.
Yeah.
The people are reporting it big time.
It's possible. I mean, so we need to let's talk about the reality of the situation. Okay. They told you to not get that spike protein, to wear a face diaper that doesn't work, to stay in your house and not hug grandma. That is complete nonsense, because viruses don't survive outside the human body. So that they can literally inject messenger ribonucleic acid into your body that goes into your ribosomes, that gets translated and transcribed so that you literally are a spike protein producing machine. That's stupid. There's no science related to it. The COVID mania tyranny has nothing to do with a basic science of respiratory viruses. The issue is that we need separation of science and state, just like church and state. The issue is lack of freedom. The issue is regulatory capture in the public health sector. The issue is that the CDC is funded by the CDC Foundation, which is funded by the pharmaceutical industry. The issue is the same goes for the World Health Organization. And the end game, we all know, is the World Health Organization International Health Resolution that they're looking to pass the amendments in May of 2024, which is literally the pathway to a totalitarian medical technocracy. So what we need to do is speak the truth and look at real science and support each other, I think.
Yeah, and everyone needs to share this interview, definitely. Is there anything else you want to tell the people?
I also want to tell people that I couldn't do any of this without God and Jesus, and I had a come into Jesus moment in April of 2020, and the only reason that I'm able to do this is because of that, and my family and friends. And thank you, Polly.
Sister.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you. Thank you for sitting there and doing it. It takes a lot to come and sit there and do that. And you can feel the emotion around this bus.
Yeah.
It's charged with it.
I can't believe I'm actually sitting here. Did I do a